Delta, the way water is brought to life.
Time to wash up.
Isn't it just like Delta to design a stylish faucet that's practical too?
Give me that.
So it's long enough to reach today's double
I like.
and even triple sinks.
My turn.
Delta, the way water is brought to life.
Need a towel?
On Simple Springtime Entertaining, I celebrate the season with a delicious picnic sandwich and bake madeleines for a garden party. We'll make tasty hors d'oeuvres and a flavorful pasta and salad dinner that's ready to serve in only 15 minutes. I also celebrate spring with kitchen projects that include making scented sugars, May wine, flavored oils, and my classic vinaigrette dressing. We're having a picnic this afternoon, and my friends have asked me to bring the sandwiches. So I thought I'd surprise them with a variation of the ordinary sub and create this wonderful circular sub, it's called. An unusual combination of vegetables and a few interesting meats. Cut the loaf in half. I'm using a serrated bread knife. This is very, very sharp and very effective for cutting such a big loaf of bread. Start the cut and then go through the bread, trying to keep it as even as possible. And because these fillings are so opulent, take out some of the interior of the bread. Don't throw it away, though. You can use it for stuffings and whatever else you use breadcrumbs for. Keep pulling out that bread so that you make a nice hollow in this peasant loaf. Do it for the top and the bottom. This way you're left with a real nice crusty bread without too much filling. This is a Sicilian peasant loaf of bread, and brush it with this delicious dressing. It's green, 2 small bunches of fresh oregano, 1/4 cup of lemon juice, 3/4 cup of olive oil, a little touch of garlic for flavor, and salt and pepper to taste. Do both sides, the top and the bottom, using approximately 1/2 cup of the dressing. Now we're ready to layer our fillings. For the bottom layer, a black forest ham, very thinly sliced. But that gives that flavor, that little bit of smoky flavor. Then grilled eggplant slices, 1/2-inch slices of eggplant that are grilled over the fire or on the grill inside your house. These have been marinated in a little bit of olive oil with a tiny bit of salt. Use nice young eggplants. And then we have a very spicy salami. I like this because each one of these things is designed to complement the others. And these are red and yellow peppers that have been roasted over the gas flame and peeled of their blackened skin. This is looking good. And then soppressata, another nice sandwich meat that's Italian. Next to the last layer is fresh buffalo milk mozzarella. Sliced about a little less than 1/4 of an inch thick. I'm going to use every bit of this because it is so good. And then 1 layer of large basil leaves. This is nice Genovese basil. This is like a medium bunch of basil. Washed well, all the leaves washed, taken off the stems, and spun dry. This adds a fragrance that is unbelievably good. I love wax paper. It's very old-fashioned, but it keeps the food very fresh and looks good on a picnic. Put this on a breadboard. Put it in the refrigerator with a tray on top, maybe another breadboard, and I wait and let it stay for an hour or 2. Using that same great bread knife, that serrated long bread knife, cut the whole sandwich into wedges. I cut it right on top of the wax paper and wish it was wrapped. That way, in case anything falls out, it doesn't dirty up your surface. Now look how delicious this layering looks. See how colorful it is? Green and red and white and pink from that wonderful Black Forest ham. That's a nice looking sandwich. Then cut it in half first, then in quarters. Then cut each quarter into eighths. Then take each wedge individually like that and wrap it in some more wax paper. Has to be wrapped tightly, otherwise it would slip and slide. This wax paper will hold it nice and firmly. Sandwiches are all pressed, cut into wedges, and pack off to the beach. In some stores, you can buy Belgian or Irish linen toweling by the yard. It's a perfect fabric to make this combination place setting and napkin for picnics. I call them lapkins. Cut some of the yardage in a decorative fashion this way. Using extra yardage, make little pockets into which you can insert your silverware. I like to use Bakelite for picnics, and you just make a little slot for a spoon, one for the fork, one for the knife, and roll up a napkin and put it in this little loop that you've made. And I've made them in this pinkish red color, yellow and green and red color. I've made them in blue and this different colored stripe one. These are great for the beach, the pool, the yard, the terrace. When I smell a very, very fragrant rose, I think of rose sugar. And I think of peaches baked with that rose sugar, or apples or apricots. Scented sugars can be made out of citrus rind, like orange or lemon. I soak it in iced water just to remove any extra oils. It can be made out of rose petals, out of geranium leaves. Geranium leaves now are scented like cinnamon or apple or pineapple. And I like to use all different varieties. They're very pretty leaves also. Or mint or lemon balm or even vanilla bean. These are all good things to scent your sugars with. It's very easy to make. In little jars for gifts, these are quarter-pint jars. Just put a little bit of sugar, a sprinkling of rose petals, a little bit more sugar. Just layer it all the way to the top of the jar. And I like to use a combination of colors of rose petal, white and pink and red. You do the same thing with the geranium leaves. A few more. Don't put too many rose petals in. You want more sugar because you're going to be actually cooking with this. And there, fill it up to the top. Put on your cap. And you have something that you can sprinkle over peaches that you're going to bake or apricots. Remember, these scented and flavored sugars are an excellent addition to anyone's kitchen. They're an inexpensive gift, and they make your food taste fabulous. Try the vanilla sugar, the orange sugar, the rose-scented sugar, and the mint sugar for your iced tea. I promised my mom that I'd bake the madeleines for her tea party this afternoon. They're really fun to make, and I've been making them ever since I read Marcel Proust's Remembrance of Things Past. Marcel sort of hung out on his couch all day and munched on madeleines and contemplated simple pleasures, I suppose. Begin making your madeleines with 4 good-sized eggs. Make sure you don't get any shells in there. Beat those eggs until thick and yellow with 2/3 of a cup of sugar and 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Break the eggs at low speed, adding the salt and 2/3 of a cup of sugar. Increase the speed as they get fluffy. Notice how I keep my sugar in a wide-mouthed crock. That way I can just dip the cup right in and measure accurately. Remember, you can always alter a flavor, but you can never alter a proportion in baking. In the meantime, melt your butter. You need 1/4 of a pound or 1 stick of butter. I always melt a few sticks, depending on how many batches I'm doing all at once. And these are the shapes that Madeleine pans come in. I'm just taking a little bit of the melted butter out of the pan that we're melting in and brush that butter right into the tray. Perfect consistency. Now just turn it down to low, add 1 teaspoon of very good vanilla. Now, while the mixer is on and the eggs are beating, measure out your flour. You need a scant cup sifted finely into a bowl. I use an all-purpose Hecker's flour. It looks exactly right. This is just like making a Genoise cake. Look. And now the batter looks exactly ready for the flour and then the addition of the butter. And I have a real easy way to do this. You can do this with a rubber scraper by folding it in, but I always get a few lumps, so I devised this method. Sprinkle the flour quickly while the machine is on. Count to 2, 1, 2, turn it off. Take another bit of flour, do the same thing. Don't overbeat. This is where you will deflate the eggs with the flour if you overbeat. Just sprinkle it on, turn it on like that. A little bit more. That's instant folding in. And here's the last bit of flour. We'll do the same thing. That's all you want to do, no more. And now for the addition of the butter, which has melted and is now just lukewarm. Measure out exactly a half a cup, 1/4 of a pound. The butter should not be boiling. And then with the mixer itself, the whisk, just make sure you get all the last little bits, little flecks of flour. And you have a lovely, rich batter. It's glistening with that butter. But there are no globs of butter in there. There are no big lumps of flour. And now, for the last little taste, I just grate a little bit of lemon rind right into the bowl. Using a tablespoon, fill the molds, not quite full. The oven should be preheated to a temperature of 350 degrees. This recipe is baked on the cat, they call it in French, or 4-4. It's the ingredients of equal parts of flour, butter, sugar, and eggs. Just depends on how you put it together, how you beat it. That makes the texture of the cake.
Bake for 10 minutes or until the center is firm. This recipe makes approximately 36 madeleines.
Oh, these look just great. And then you tap them immediately onto a cooling rack. Oh, great. Turn them out. Oh, these are nice. Wonderful color, wonderful shape. If any of the madeleines just happen to stick, use a little cake tester. This is a very fine little wire tool, and just pop it out. Really easy. This is not a Teflon pan, and you see it's a little bit more temperamental, but it also is tastes really good because it had a little bit of butter in there. Arrange the madeleines in any fashion you wish. I love to use these glass pedestals. They're meant for cakes or cookies like this. I don't know if madeleines are really a cake or a cookie. They're kind of a cross. And now for a little decoration, some powdered sugar. I think Mom will be pleased with her madeleines. There are a lot for all those ladies, and maybe there'll be a few left over. They freeze really well. So you can just pop them into the freezer, wrap them up tightly, and save them for the next tea party. In Europe, there's a tradition of serving May wine in the early spring. It sort of is a greeting for the coming of spring. It's very easy to make and extra delicious to drink. I've traditionally made this May wine with Riesling wine. It's slightly sweet German wine, but always get a good quality. Open it up. This is what sweet woodruff looks like. It's a beautiful looking ground cover herb, and it's a little bit sticky. Crush the leaves. It imparts its flavor to the bottle of wine. once you recork it and put it into the refrigerator for up to 2 weeks.
After a week or so in the refrigerator, the aromatic essence of the herbs has enhanced the wine's flavor. It's a good accompaniment to lunch on a sunny day.
And as a toast to spring, you have your May wine cocktail. It's a good thing. When I get in the mood to do something, I like to do it sort of in a big way, like making flavored oils. It takes a little bit of time and a little bit of organization, but once you're set up to do one kind of oil, you might as well do a whole bunch of them so that you can really enhance your cooking with these unusual and wonderful flavored oils. The easiest of all these oils to make that I have found is basil oil. Wash and dry fresh basil leaves. This is a Genovese basil, which I find is extremely flavorful. We just grew this in the garden, and it's unblemished leaves. Just layer the leaves in a flat dish. Pour some virgin olive oil. Always use virgin when you're doing these flavored oils. I use it up really quickly, serving it to everybody on everything. I'll put about an inch of oil and make sure these are covered well, and then put this out in the sun for 6 hours. The basil cooks in the oil. Bring it in and immediately refrigerate it if you cannot strain it, but it's best to then put it through 3 strainers of cheesecloth. Strain it 3 separate times. If you wish, put a piece of cheesecloth over the top, tightly drawn so it doesn't fall down into the oil, tightly drawn over the whole dish, but this will keep any bugs or flies out of your oil. Once it's cooked, you're ready to strain it. The next oil I'd like to show you how to make is the red pepper oil. I've already made 2 jars of this sweet, rich, emulsified oil out of a puree of red peppers, sweet bell peppers, and olive oil. But since I already have this made, I thought I'd alter it just slightly by adding 1 red hot chili pepper. So, cut up your red bell peppers, 4 or 5 of them. Take out all the seeds. Make them in pieces that will go through the juicer easily. Let it come up to speed. It comes out a beautiful red color. But remember, these are not the answer to everything. You're not eating the fiber when you're making juice. You're really just taking the taste out of the vegetable or the fruit. And you're not getting the fiber. You're also taking all the calories, all the sugar. So don't think that this is the ultimate health food. Now put this juice into a big saucepan. Kind of the larger the saucepan, the better. I want to do 2 halves of 1 red chili pepper. Add that juice and boil this till it's reduced to 1/4. Here's the red pepper puree. It's so rich and thick, and it looks so good. Put the puree in a nice, clean, sterilized jar that can be tightly covered. I like these canning jars. They look good. Add some olive oil. Add about 2 parts olive oil to 1 part of puree. This is a very, very good funnel. Notice it's a wide mouth funnel for filling jars. These come in stainless steel, and they're very good for all kinds of canning and preserving. Now just tighten that well, shake it up, and refrigerate it. This will keep in the refrigerator. Look at that nice, nice color. It'll keep in the refrigerator for up to about 2 or 3 weeks, but use it and enjoy it. The next oil is a cilantro oil. It's known in India as cilantro. It's known in Mexico as culantro. It's known in China as coriander. Very, very pungent. I think it's an acquired taste, and a lot of people just don't like it, but it's a staple flavor in all those cuisines, and I just have become totally addicted to it. I love it in almost anything. So pick over the leaves very, very well and blanch about a cup of the leaves in boiling water for about 30 seconds. These you'll put in the blender. To the blanched coriander, add equal parts of olive oil. So it's about a half a cup of oil to the 1 cup of cilantro that's been blanched down to about a half a cup. Look at that great color. Now it gets very creamy looking, but it will settle down and darken as it sits in the refrigerator. This bright color looks like a nice coriander pesto. And you can put that into, let's see, what jar will I put this into? This jar. Once you put it in a jar, refrigerate it overnight. Bring it back to room temperature the next day and pour the oil through a cheesecloth lined strainer. This is a nice steel strainer, and I use about 5 or 6 layers of cotton cheesecloth. This will take out all the solids and leave you with the emulsified oil. Don't press the solids through the cheesecloth. So that's going to turn into an oil that looks like this. Notice the difference in color. You have the essence of the coriander or the cilantro in this jar, and this is the beginning of it. These oils make delicious gifts. They'll keep in the refrigerator for 1 to 2 weeks, but make small batches since a little will go a long way. Good luck with your oils, and have fun changing your cooking style. We're making hors d'oeuvres this afternoon, and I think that these are something that's very mysterious to a lot of people. What to make before dinner, what to make for the cocktail party. But I keep a very simple rule of thumb. They have to be delicious. This is one of them, crab cakes. This is 1 pound of crab. Mix in 1/2 of a red pepper and 1/2 of a yellow pepper, finely chopped, as you see here, and 1 jalapeno pepper. 4 or 5 scallions, or green onions. We want colorful crab cakes. We want tasty crab cakes, and we want crab cakes that won't taste greasy or too bready. About 1/4 of a cup of fresh cilantro, finely chopped up. Approximately 1/2 a cup of very finely ground fresh breadcrumbs. 1/3 of a cup of homemade mayonnaise if you have it, or low-fat mayonnaise if you buy it. And last, 1 egg as a binder. So mix it all together. You can freeze them also, but I really don't like freezing shellfish like this. I think it works better if you don't. Make a little ball and then flatten it out. Try to make your hors d'oeuvres a uniform size and not too large. You're going to pick these up in your fingers, and you don't want to have them too large. Go around the sides like that and put them on a parchment-lined sheet for refrigeration. I've heated up the olive oil. You can smell that it's hot, and you can feel that it's hot. I don't have to use a thermometer, but if you're unsure of yourself, use a thermometer and get the oil to about 300 degrees. You can also hear that it's hot as you put the crab cakes in very carefully and gently, being careful not to splatter. I think these look so great. They're just so pretty with that red and yellow pepper and that green coriander. And they smell really good. Try to remember how you place these in the oil so that when you turn them, you're turning the ones that are already cooked. Real good color, golden brown, both sides. Drain them on a paper towel lined breadboard or tray. And I will spoon a little bit of chutney on top of each of the crab cakes. Makes a nice little glistening look, and it's very tasty. Remember, each hors d'oeuvre is distinctive, is tasteful, bite-sized, and jewel-like. This garnishing is a little time-consuming, but it's what makes your hors d'oeuvres stand out. I think this little delicate flower looks perfect on the chutney on top of the crab cake. And then arrange these on a little wire rack and serve them while they're hot. One of the simplest, easiest, and most popular of all hors d'oeuvres is the quesadilla. I think they're just absolutely great, and you can make them with all kinds of different fillings, and you can also make them out of different kinds of tortillas. You can use the flour tortilla, which is my personal favorite. You can also use blue corn tortillas. These are a little bit unusual and not as popular as the yellow corn tortillas. Using the flour tortilla, put a tiny touch of oil, and I'm using my homemade coriander oil. Sprinkle a little bit of grated cheese. This can be Monterey Jack. It can be Monterey Jack with jalapeno peppers in it. It can be mozzarella cheese, or it can be a combination of white and yellow cheddar cheese, as we're doing here. And here we have coriander. I picked this in the garden, and it's very strong tasting and very flavorful. And I love coriander so much, cilantro to some of you. And I'll put enough of this sprinkled on top of the cheese. A little bit of jalapeno pepper. You can have it cut in strips like this. These are chili peppers, and jalapenos are the green. Depending on your taste buds, how much can you take of the hot? And now cover it with another tortilla. Press it down, and it's ready to go into the pan. Use either your coriander oil or good quality olive oil, just a few drops in the bottom of the pan. But if you're on a picnic, on a beach, and you want to make some quesadillas, take yourself a bag full already made and just throw them on the grill as the hors d'oeuvre to a dinner or a barbecue. So we'll cook one of these. We'll do the large flour quesadilla. They cook really quickly over high heat. Just flip them over. See the difference in color? Nice golden color. In between, as you cook one and then the next, always add just a few drops of oil to the pan. That adds flavor as well as helping to brown the quesadilla. Here's how I serve them. So now cut this one into wedges. I found that cutting it with scissors is a very easy and effective way of dealing with these tortillas. You can just spoon on top of the wedges homemade guacamole. Very pretty. Very tasty. And they will disappear off the serving tray as fast as you can pass them. Serve them with pink margaritas or blue margaritas. You can garnish the center with a little coriander. Have a great party. Are you fed up with stuck-up salt shakers and pepper shakers that won't shake out the pepper, or pepper mills that won't work? Here's a real easy solution to the problem. I like to grind my own pepper, so I grind it up coarsely or finely, whatever I want. I make a mixture of white and black peppercorns, as fragrant a mixture as I can find, using all kinds of exotic peppercorns that are available at spice stores. Grind up the peppercorns to the fineness that you desire. And I put this freshly ground pepper, I do this about once a week so that I always have fresh pepper on hand. And I put it in decorative bowls that I keep on the side of my stove, and little crystal or cut glass bowls like this on my table. This guarantees that I have freshly ground pepper at my fingertips at all times. The salt is kosher salt. I use this brand, Diamond Crystal. You can find Morton's coarse salt. And you just pour this also into matching bowls so that you have at all times bowls of salt and pepper wherever you need them. Look how easy it is to dip into the salt for baking or pinch the pepper for sprinkling. It's a good thing. My salad dressing has remained the same since I took my first trip to Europe back in the 1960s. It was there that I learned that the proportion between oil and vinegar, is the important factor in making a salad dressing. All the other flavorings and seasonings are to your own personal taste, but it's that oil to vinegar ratio that's important. Let me show you how. Balsamic vinegar, which is an aged red wine vinegar, very, very potent and delicious with a depth of flavor, has become the most popular vinegar in the last couple of years. I use 1 part of vinegar to 3 parts of oil, and use a good, rich oil. This is a cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil. It's Italian. Now notice, this is a 1/4 cup measure. I filled it just about 3/4 full. So 3 parts of olive oil to 1 part of vinegar. And I like to use a good Dijon mustard, about half of a spoon, and a sprinkling of freshly ground black pepper, a few large pinches, and a sprinkling of coarse salt. This is kosher salt. Just as much as I can fit between my fingers to start. 2 of those. And a small pinch of sugar. Now whisk it up and keep whisking it until you see that the oil and vinegar have become creamy. There, you can see the consistency. Nice and creamy, not too thick, not too thin. Guaranteed tasty. Dress the salad with just enough vinegar to coat the leaves. The salad is washed and very dry. The leaves must be dry to accept the salad dressing. And I just spoon a little bit over the top right before serving. Take it to the table and toss. The perfect vinaigrette on the perfect green salad. Tonight I want to go to the movies, the 7:15 show. It's 5:35 and I want to have dinner first. We're both very hungry and I want to make something delicious.
This is a penne pasta with a sauce made of bell peppers sautéed with red onions.
First thing you do is put your waters on to boil. I'm also making a little pea salad, snow peas from the garden or snow peas from the grocery store with a lettuce base. And the first thing you do, turn the water on. 1 for the snow peas and 1 for the pasta. And heat up your pan in which you're going to cook the onions and the peppers. Add a little bit of olive oil, I'd say about 2 tablespoons. Peel 3 red onions and then slice them quite thickly. A little, sort of like a little less than a ½ inch. In crosswise slices. Also, a couple cloves of garlic, big chunks, so you can eat it or choose not to eat it. It will give the flavor. I keep garlics in the refrigerator already peeled like this. You know, just do a few if you want. Just keep them in there. Or you can roast them and keep them preserved in oil in your refrigerator. Now, saute both the onion and the garlic. Don't brown it. Just get them nice and translucent. Stir them every now and then. Now prepare your peppers. I have 3 peppers of red and 3 of yellow. I think I'm going to do just 2 of each. Now watch how I'm cutting this into sort of large chunks. These are beautiful peppers. Remove all the seeds. And now our yellow peppers. Notice how I'm preparing the peppers. I'm cutting the top off like that, removing the stem. They pop right out. These have been washed and cut into chunks. Then you remove the insides. But these are lovely peppers. They're kind of expensive, but you don't need that many, 2 or 3 of each color for this pasta, and it's not that expensive. Now, basil, nice big chunks. As soon as the onions look kind of transparent, they're almost there, we will add our peppers. In the meantime, as soon as I finish this basil, I'm adding the penne to the water. You want that done at the same time as the sauce is done. Add a touch of salt to the water, not much, just a touch, and you can add a dribble of oil. Now I'm going to throw in the peppers, handfuls. Medium heat for all of this. Stir your pasta. Don't let it stick in the bottom of the pan. And keep looking at it because you want the pasta to be what they call al dente, you know, almost cooked, not real soft, but not hard either. And now this water is boiling and I'm going to throw in my snow peas. These are a mixture of actually snow peas and sugar snap peas. And they're very tender, young. These came from my garden, but they are delicious. Now blanch them for approximately 1 to 2 minutes. Watch them. They turn bright, bright green. Rapid boil. Stir those too. And when they're done, see how they've changed color? It's amazing what happens in boiling water. These are good raw, but they are so much better when they're cooked just for a minute or two. The flavor really improves. Get a bowl of iced water and a big strainer, and you're going to just take those peas right out of the boiling water into ice water to chill them and stop the cooking. This is a cold salad, and I want everything to be crispy and cold. Now it's time to throw in the capers. It's about 1/4 cup of capers. Let them cook a little bit. And a little bit of pepper, black pepper. A little bit of salt. Not too much. Let people salt their own food. But just enough to improve the flavor while cooking. See, these colors are just extraordinary. And these delicate peppers, the reds, the yellows, the oranges, cook very rapidly. My peas are done. Get them right out of that water. Oh, look how gorgeous. Into the ice water. Halt the cooking. Once they're thoroughly chilled, remove them into a colander to drain completely. Now look, only less than 2 tablespoons of oil. And this looks glossy and silky and tender and extremely flavorful. So you don't need to put 1/2 cup of oil in this kind of thing, really. So little, and that kind of cooking, layering the food, starting with the garlic and the onions, and then putting in the peppers, then the capers. That's what cooks this so nicely, and the juices exuding from the different vegetables. Okay, now arrange your salad. This is a variety of field lettuce. And now just put your peas on top. There. And now in a little bowl, mix up a tiny bit of olive oil for your salad dressing, a little bit of salt, a little bit of freshly ground pepper. Notice how I have all these things right at my fingertips, and some shallots, all finely chopped up. Stir them up. A little tiny bit more oil. And some more basil, finely chopped, mixed with a little parsley, chopped up for this salad. Now some red wine vinegar. This has been flavored with sage and peppercorns. Not too much. And this just gets spooned over the top, sort of sprinkled over the top of this salad. This will be very nice. A nice crusty loaf of French bread would be great with this meal, or Italian bread. It smells really good. That's our salad. Now throw in your basil right into the peppers. Give it a stir or two. The basil will wilt just a little bit. I turn it off at this point. And now drain your pasta. And you pour the pasta right onto your platter. This is so much fun. And now you put your lovely, lovely pepper mixture on top of your pasta. Look at the color. Oh, it's so great. And it smells really, really good. Oops, it's heavy. You can serve this with or without Parmesan cheese. You don't have to have the cheese. It's really tasty without it. 2 gorgeous dishes in exactly 15 minutes. It's meals in minutes. Serve it up hot and the salad cold. Enjoy.
For more Martha Stewart Living, check the program guide of Martha Stewart Living magazine for local listings of my weekly television program.
Isn't it just like Delta to design a stylish faucet that's practical too?
Give me that.
So it's long enough to reach today's double
I like.
and even triple sinks.
My turn.
Delta, the way water is brought to life.
Need a towel?